everyone. It is the month of December. It's the last month of 2022, and I thought maybe I would do a little longer presentation just because a lot has happened in 2022, and I wanted to give you some good, solid understanding of where we've come from, where we're at right now, and where we're most likely to go in 2023, because I know you're all dying to know that. So I have a lot of numbers up on here. Let's just hone in on some of the important ones to make a note of. You'll notice right here, 2022 year to date, the Calgary real estate market, this is Calgary and surrounding areas. We have done 28,471 sales on the MLS in this year to date, whereas a year ago we were at 25,950. So that's a 9.71% increase year over year. You'll also notice new listing inventory. Let's go to November 22, which is 1,611 versus 1998. This is a really important thing to note. We are down 19.37% in listing inventory, and our current inventory, you can see, is at 3,109 versus a year ago, which is 3,932. So that's almost 21% lower than we were a year ago. And what bothers me about the news is that they talk a lot about how the market is down because of interest rates rising. There's no question we have definitely dropped in volume. We have year over year. When you look at the sales, we're at 1,648 versus 2,108 year over year. So that's a 22% drop in sales from November 21 to November 22. But to see the inventory drop almost the same percentage, that's really significant, because we know that when it comes to prices, whether they drop or whether they increase or stay the same, it's always based on supply and demand. And right now the demand has dropped, but so has the supply, which is one of the reasons why the prices are actually holding currently in the Calgary market. And I'll get into what the future looks like in a little bit, but that's just an important number to look at. This is a little disturbing when you look at the fact that we only have 1.89 supply, like a month, almost 2 months supply of inventory is not very much inventory for our market. We really, on what I would say more of a balanced year, this inventory, even in December, should be sitting at about 5,000 properties. So this is really tight inventory, and I have to say it surprises some buyers when they come in the market right now and they're seeing these houses that come on the market and they hear in the news that that the sales have dropped off by 20%. They're thinking, well, I could get a really good deal and I don't have to make a decision right away. I can sit and think about it for a week, and they're getting very surprised when the good inventory is still selling within a matter of a day or two. So that's something to really think hard about as you're looking at the market. So here's the charts I always like looking at the most because they're really easy to understand. We're looking at the detached houses for the month of November, and you can see that our absorption rate actually went up in November over October. Now that seems kind of unusual when you think how interest rates are rising, and yet our absorption rate is rising as well. I mean, it's interesting. July we had a 43.76% absorption rate, and here we are in November where interest rates are higher. We're at 52.14. This is quite interesting, and remember, the absorption rate has a direct relation to the amount of inventory that we have. So the volume of sales is down 22%, but the absorption rate in relation to our inventory is actually higher. So it just goes to show that when you look at the stats, they give you the real story, not necessarily what you hear about on the news. This is a very healthy market. 52.14% of the houses listed that sold. I mean, in a bad market that we saw back in 2017, you're at about 20% of the houses listed sold, and we still had a pretty good market. So this is good news. 619,700 is our benchmark price for a detached home, and that is only down slightly, 0.67%. You compare that to Toronto area right now. In fact, I saw some stats on Waterloo, Kitchener. They saw like a 20% price drop year over year in Kitchener, Waterloo. I mean, they're just getting hammered in that market, but their prices were so overinflated. We don't have overinflated prices in Calgary, and that's a big reason why people are moving here. Our net migration is incredible right now. A lot of the immigrants that are coming to Canada are actually coming to Alberta, and I think part of that is what's keeping our market stable, and the fact that our oil prices are high, so we have jobs, so our economic environment is pretty good. It just costs a little more to buy a house, but at least we're affordable. So if we come down here, this gives you the hard data. So 818 detached homes out of 1,569 sold. So pretty healthy market. Not as good as far as the volume of sales goes, not quite as good as October or September, but you got to keep in mind also that if you look at a normal year, our sales usually are around that 1,500 mark for the month of November on a normal year. Last year was an above average year, so that's why we saw 1,246 sales in November. Now remember, this is just detached houses. This isn't the whole market. So this is a pretty good year to think of 818 on just detached. When I said 1,500, I meant for the whole market. So a normal year just on detached is right around that 800 homes mark is pretty normal if you go back on the 10-year average for detached houses. 37 days on average it's taking to sell a house, so that's pretty respectable, not too long. Here's our market distribution. It's always my favorite chart. No surprise, 500 to 600,000, almost 25% of the market. So that really is what I call our sweet spot for Calgary. You can still get a pretty decent house in Calgary for $500,000 to $600,000, which you clearly can't in Vancouver or Toronto. You don't even get a garage for that price. 600 to 7 is 20.21%, so that's still holding pretty strong. A lot of really nice houses still in that $600,000 to $700,000 range, but you can see there's still a fair amount of inventory under $500,000. So even with these high interest rates, you can still get into an affordable property. And if you do the math, the cost of renting versus the cost of owning is still relatively close together. So if you're sitting here renting right now and wondering if you should buy, the answer is yeah, you should buy. And there's every reason to consider that that this market is going to hold. And I'm going to talk a little bit further about what I think is going to happen in the future. But I actually think prices are going to climb a little bit. And some people think I'm crazy for saying that, but I'll tell you why in a minute. The 1 million to 1.5 million holding at 5% of the market. I mean, that's a lot of houses that sold this year. 771 homes sold between $1 million and $1.5 million. It just goes to show that's a very healthy market. And a lot of people that buy these homes don't even need a mortgage. It's amazing how many cash offers we see in that market. Here we are looking at semi-detached. These are attached properties that are not condos. Almost 50% absorption rate as well here. So another really healthy month, and up in that relationship between sales and the amount of inventory. 562,000. Isn't that interesting? It's actually up. This market is up 0.73%. And, we're up year over year 9.88%. So I think what we're seeing is, as you look at with the higher interest rates and affordability, people are definitely getting into some of the affordable properties when you factor in interest rates. So I think that's why we're seeing this is actually climbing. And I think a lot of people might be surprised by this because everyone, when you look at the news, thinks that prices must be dropping, and here the semi-detached are not. But 562 is a very affordable price point for most people. If you come down here to the hard numbers, that's 131 out of 271 listed. So it's a very healthy market for November, which is typically a more of a slower year or slower month of the year. 45 days it's on average it's taking to sell one of these units. And as you can see, very similar to October. The 400 to 500 is 22, almost 23% of the market. 300 to 400 is 22% of the market. So you have almost 50% of this market is between $300,000 and $500,000. And you can see a lot of first-time buyers would be attracted to getting into a semi-detached in this price range where it's affordable and it's going to cost them the same amount of money as renting. When you go over here to the higher priced real estate, 700 to 900, this is your infill market, and that's still pretty healthy. I mean, that's we're talking over 17% of the market is right here, 700 to 900. So there's still a really good market for these luxury semi-detached properties in the inner city. So there's no reason to see that this is going to change. And again, this is in the midst of rising interest rates. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at these. This is row houses, or otherwise known as townhouses. So these are condos. 65% absorption rate. Like, what's going on? This is really strong on what's happening here, because there's a lot of people, again, that are just looking for the lower priced real estate. This is a benchmark price of $358,700. And comparing again to these expensive markets, you can't get anything close to this in Ontario or BC. So for a major center like Calgary, this is amazing. You can actually buy into this. And we're seeing, of course, a lot of people coming from Ontario buying these. Investors are buying these. So it's no surprise. We're only down slightly, 0.64% month over month, but we're up 14% in price year over year. That's pretty impressive. If you come over here, it's 249 out of 383 sold. So, I mean, we're down obviously from October. It's kind of a cyclical thing. It is November. It typically slows down a little bit, but that's still, I mean, to see 249 out of 383 sell, that's pretty impressive. And you have to factor in that some of these people that are in the 383 are probably asking too much money for their townhouse, and that may be the only reason it didn't even sell. No other reason. 35 days on average in order to sell one of these units. And you can see there's the bulk of the sales right here, $300,000 to $400,000, which makes sense. I mean, if you're a first-time home buyer or an investor, these townhouses make a very good property to own. It's affordable. If you're an investor, it's easy to rent. If you've maybe gone through a divorce, these have a small backyard. They're about the next best thing to a house, but they're affordable to get into. I don't see that this is going to change. I think coming into the new year, we're going to continue to see a demand for these properties. Looking at apartment condos, 50.51% absorption rate. I mean, unbelievable. I don't think I even would have ever guessed this, that we'd be getting into seller market territory for apartment condos, because for so many years nobody was even looking at these. They were dying a slow death from 2015 all the way to 2021, and now all of a sudden apartment condos in Calgary are being bought up. People want them for a lot of different reasons, and I think it's the same thing as I mentioned in row houses. First-time buyers and investors, but you also have people downsizing, people that are selling out of their houses and moving into condos as well. So this is happening. Our benchmark price, $277,000. I mean, we're slightly down from October, but we're up 10% year over year. in apartment condos. That's good news. I mean, if you look at this chart right here, you can see 2015 was where we peaked at 292,458. We're at 271, so we're climbing. It's looking like we're going to get back. I'm predicting that we're actually going to get back to the 2015 levels finally in the midst of interest rate hikes. I think that's the part a lot of people are going to be taken by surprise, that this is happening during interest rate hikes in Calgary. But again, if you look at our distribution here, we have most of the condos are between $200,000 and $300,000. That's really affordable. Again, comparing to these big markets like Toronto, Vancouver, I mean, you just don't see that. So it does make sense. I mean, you can still get a nice condo, for around $300,000 in Calgary. 20% of the market is $300,000 to $400,000. So pretty much, anything under $400,000, you can get some pretty nice condos in this town. And again, why bother renting when you can own a condo, and you may as well pay into your own mortgage rather than just paying into your landlord? So it makes sense. 47 days on average to sell one, and you can see 448 out of 887 sold for condos in the month of November. So just a really strong month. Let me give you my prediction for 2023 for what it's worth. I mean, we all know no one has the crystal ball, either do I, but when I look at this data, I look at I call it the pulse of the market, because I'm in the thick of it. After doing it all these years that I've done it, I've learned that I can make some predictions, and I've been reasonably accurate on it. If you factor in the net migration coming to Calgary, I mean, they've even set up, I guess as officially today, they've got a booth now for new immigrants at the airport in Calgary. I know the Royal Bank, who we've even partnered up with now, we actually have them in our office. They've got a new to Calgary program for mortgages on making it easier for new immigrants to get a mortgage. And that's one of the reasons I partnered up with them, and we have them right in our office. They see the trend of what's happening, and we're expecting to see a lot of people move into Alberta, and especially Calgary. It's affordable, we have high quality living, and we have jobs. That's a good recipe for a healthy market. The only thing negative in our market is higher interest rates. But if you look at the rental prices, which have risen, we don't have rent controls like we do in other provinces in this country. So rent prices have risen. So when you're faced with the decision, should I own or should I rent, and it's relatively the same, you're going to probably choose owning rather than renting, and you're going to see that's what most people are going to do. So my bold prediction is I don't think we're going to see the same volume of sales that we did see in 2022. It was an exceptional year. We're probably going to finish around 29,000, maybe 30,000 properties are going to sell for the whole year. That's a big year for Calgary. I could see us, though, doing still around 23 to 25,000 sales next year, which will be still above average in the midst of these higher interest rates. I don't believe that we're going to see any major price corrections. Because the data supports the fact that with the fundamentals being so strong and the only negative being interest rates and rents are still high, I still think that if you put all that together, our market should be relatively good going into 2023. Now, that being said, hey, like I said, I don't have the crystal ball. I think there is one thing to consider. There's a lot of people on variable rate mortgages, and if a lot of these people get into trouble, they could start putting their properties on the market at a discount, which could affect pricing. So that's one thing that we have to keep our eye on. But I also think if the market is strong enough, even if you've got some people in variable rates that are having trouble and they put their house on the market for a fair price, somebody else will snap it up, and that should keep the prices held for 2023. So all in all, I'm pretty optimistic for 2023 for Calgary and Edmonton especially. For the rest of Canada, not so sure. So hope this has been really helpful for you in taking a look at this data, and I hope it helps you to make some decisions on what you want to do moving forward into next year. And once again, if you're looking at selling, you want to take a really good look at whether this is the right time, and take a good look at what the market is going to do for you and what your current value of your home is, just reach out to me. I always have some great ideas on how to increase the value of your home, talk about the timing, and I've always taken the approach, I'm in it for the long haul, so I don't really worry too much if this isn't the perfect time for you, but you want to get some information now to make some decisions. I would welcome you to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to give you my take on everything. And if you're looking to buy, reach out to me. Whether you're ready to buy now or whether you're looking at several months from now, there's some things that we can talk about and teach you on how to prepare for your purchase that I think you'll find extremely valuable. I'm even in the process right now of writing a book on how to buy a home in Calgary, which is going to be coming out in the new year. So I'll introduce that hopefully in January or February. Otherwise, everybody have yourself a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the fun stuff we do with family, and we'll look forward to seeing you in January for an update.